Hello, welcome to another episode of Taj Tell 'em. Today we're continuing our series through the Democratic presidential candidates for 2020, and today we'll be covering Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, we will be talking about her life, what her policies are, as in the LIFT Act and the Rent Relief Act, and also her record as a San Francisco DA.
And Reefergate. Ooh, back at it again.
All right. Hi, welcome to Taj Tell 'em.
What are we talking about tonight?
Whoa, this episode we are covering Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, our current senator and former...
Wait, she's our senator?
Oh yeah, she's senator.
Really? Wait, when did that happen?
Same night Trump was elected.
Oh my gosh, no wonder I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah. No, I mean there are other things happening that night.
Like a lot of screaming, a lot of angry texts,
a lot of tears.
Yeah, the sound of democracy dying.
Well, hey, I mean, he was democratically elected, I guess.
Yeah. And today we're gonna look into Kamala Harris.
Oh, cool. So, yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I mean, what were your thoughts on Kamala Harris, going into recording this episode?
I think she comes off as somebody you don't want to mess with.
True.
Which is what the Democratic Party really wants, that somebody to rally behind. Because, to be honest, at this time, I've already resigned to the fact that it's not going to be policy driven. At least for the first few debates.
No, that's very true. Because I think at the beginning, the American public just needs to get acclimated, just to get to know who these candidates are, and so it's almost entirely personality. It's all style, almost no substance, and so that's where I think Kamala Harris shines. Because she, beyond her just natural presence, I also think that her ethnic identity is helping her in the sense that she even got
ethnic and gender.
Oh, yeah, no, very true. Because she was even able to get that time to kind of deliver that zinger to Biden. Because she was like, hey, as the only, African-American person on stage, I think I have a right to speak about race. And so, and I also think that...
Cory Booker was like, why am I not bussed?
Well, I mean...
Mom, Dad, you should have bussed me.
Well, I mean, he was on first night. Yeah. So, he didn't get quite the opportunity to kind of, play the race card, if you will. Mm-hmm. But, Kamala Harris, she understands, like, hey, like race is one of the main indicators of identity we use.
And also, Kamala Harris, she also has another ace in the back. Like her family are immigrants as well.
Oh yeah, her mom's from India originally, right?
Mm-hmm. So she's got all these things that she just boom, the race card, the woman card. I'm pretty soon she's gonna get Oprah's endorsement too. Yeah,
if she continues to survive in the primary, I could definitely see her as like a credible candidate for like the Hollywood celebrity types to begin to rally around. Just because one. There is this sense of like virtue signaling in the sense that, hey, if you're supporting like not only like a woman candidate, but like a minority, then it makes you look very progressive. And so, that's something that supporting like a Joe Biden or like a Bernie Sanders just doesn't really necessarily give you that kind of cred.
And unfortunately, I think just the fact that you're supporting a woman in LA, in the LA area, that goes a little further than most.
Yeah, and I know some of our listeners maybe listening will be like, oh, that's such like BS, why does identity matter so much? And if you have that opinion, you're welcome to have it, but reality is it does matter. I was I was actually chatting with some girl on one of these like dating apps, and then she brought up that, she's a big fan of Kamala, and I was like, oh, so what do you like about Kamala? And one of the main reasons is because Kamala Harris is a woman.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, like it or not, like that's just the way that the electorate is viewing things on these very like simplistic kind of terms. And so, knowing that reality, Kamala Harris looks like a pretty strong candidate.
Because if she's a woman and I'm a woman, then she's going to fight for my rights.
I mean, that's one argument. It's that idea of like I think it's called descriptive representation. That idea that, for example, Kamala Harris, being a woman, she'll be more sympathetic to women's issues like women's reproductive rights and so forth. Her being, a person of color, she's going to be inherently more sympathetic for issues relating to people of color.
Mm-hmm. And so now I know you did some research on her family background.
Yeah, so Kamala Harris. For those who don't know, a lot of people say she's not only going to be the first African American woman president if she wins, but also the first Asian American. And I think that term we've discussed this in previous episodes, but that term Asian American is kind of a bullshit term, just because it doesn't really mean anything. I mean, Asia is over 20 different countries, no common language.
I mean, if you think about it, Russia is part of Asia.
Fair. Yes. I don't necessarily think, I think it's a nonsense term, but I think the reason why they say that though is because her mom is originally from the subcontinent of India.
Yep.
She came here as part of her education, and she refused to go back to India to go back to her arranged marriage, and she instead stayed here. So she's a strong, independent woman.
America corrupts them all,
or gives them liberty.
I mean, back in India, they don't have to do work. They just stay at home. Hey, take care of the kids.
Hey, Wendy's listening to this podcast.
Ah, crap! Oh, we just lost our 100% of our viewership.
Unsubscribe. Thumbs down. 1-star rating.
Like us if you're alt-right.
Whoa. We're gonna get deplatformed.
Exactly. That's how we make the news.
Now you can only listen to us at Infowars.com.
You can tip our Ethereum jar and our Bitcoin jar.
There you go.
Okay, so family background.
Oh yeah, so she's her mom was originally from India. Her dad was African American. They were both political activists. So Kamala Harris actually grew up attending political rallies.
She grew up in Oakland or something.
Yes,
right?
correct. She grew up in Oakland, Bay Area. That's where I'm from. So, hey, Bay Area, go. And I think what was interesting is even her sister kind of became an activist. I think her sister was a top policy advisor for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign.
Oh, so she's corrupt then.
Well, she knows how to lose.
Good one. Wait, press that. Whatever, laughter.
Oh, God.
That deserves a laugh.
No, true. But she is a Stanford Law School grad and one of the youngest people ever appointed as the dean of a law school.
And wait, are you talking about her or her sister?
Oh, her sister, Maya. But her mom, she actually divorced her father and raised actually both Kamala and her sister.
And she was like some top scientist or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, she was a prominent breast cancer researcher. While being a single mom. So
she's my hero.
Oh no,
she saves boobies,
making the world a better place.
Yeah, one boobie at a time.
And but she unfortunately actually passed away 10 years ago. She passed away of colon cancer. And so actually while Harris was running for Attorney General. But she did get a chance to see Kamala Harris become a district attorney of San Francisco. And what's interesting is that, growing up, Harris actually was, politically engaged. She, along with her sister, organized a children's protest to overturn a no-playing policy in their apartment building's courtyard, and they won. And so
to oppose a no-playing policy?
Oh, yeah. So that to allow the kids to play in the courtyard.
God damn it. Fight the power.
There you go. But what's interesting, though, is, she shared that one reason why she went out of activism and into actually working for the man is she said she wanted to be on the other side of that door when the activists came knocking. And so... because I guess she, by having parents who were activists, she saw kind of the shortcomings of that approach. And so, one of the kind of sordid details, though, out of her personal life was that she actually was engaged romantically with former mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown.
Oh, okay.
She was 29 years old when
And
they
he
met.
was like 32, right?
Times two. He was 60.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so a lot of people, they thought that this relationship, wasn't necessarily motivated by love and instead was motivated by more of her ambition. Because Brown actually appointed.
Well, that's because she's not Marianne Williamson. So.
And so, Brown actually appointed Harris she was on the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, and the other was the Medical Assistance Commission.
I heard those jobs rake in like high, like 90,000.
Okay, and this was back in 1994, so that was actually a lot of money back then.
Okay.
And so she actually held both jobs when she was still.
Now Willie Brown, he was single, right?
Oh, so he was actually still married, but estranged to his wife. So, even the cases of it is a little gray. And so they actually both ended the relationship the following year after she was appointed to those two positions.
Wait. This man, he's like, I'm not gonna talk to my wife. I'm gonna date you. And no, you want these positions? Yeah, I'll give it to you.
And then, what?
Wait, what's going on? I'm not saying this guy's a saint, but
oh, poor Willie Brown. He's heartbroken.
Now, to her credit, my understanding is Willie Brown, his situation is very well known.
What do you mean?
His estranged wife situation and having extramarital affair. On paper, but in form, he was pretty much divorced from his wife, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine just because, I mean, that's a pretty public relationship that he was engaging in. So, I mean,
and he was mayor of San Francisco before the appointments or after the appointments? Because I know he was city council for a while.
I'm not certain time frame wise, but apparently, I mean, he did have the power to put a 29-year-old on these two boards. So.
What were these two boards again?
They were the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board and the Medical Assistance Commission. So,
as a 29-year-old, I'm like, more unemployment. That's all. All right, you need some? Stamp.
And we wonder why we don't trust our government.
Okay. And then for the medical board. Let me look at what WebMD says.
Hey, this is 94, no WebMD.
Ooh, no WebMD. Okay.
So let me see what the Encyclopedia Britannica
Britannica says. Let me bust out my TI-83 that does nothing.
Let me play games on this TI-83.
I'm gonna play fucking Snake that I had my friend program like for a day and a half. Okay.
That's how I made my lunch money during high school.
Dude, you're Elon Musk, bro.
Boom. Hey, where's my $1 billion? And I heard she broke up with him via letter.
Man.
That is the older form of breaking up over text.
Yeah. At least she didn't ghost him, I guess.
No, true. Very true.
Oh, God. No, I have to say, she's a smart one. She knows what she's doing.
No, very fair. She's no innocent dove here. She this cat's got claws.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now she's actually married to a patent lawyer.
Ooh, that's money right there.
Oh yeah, and that's actually why she actually has the second highest income, household income of any candidate other than Joe Biden. I think her household income last year was almost $2 million. 1.5 of that was from her husband, and then she had about $300,000 from her memoir, and about $160,000 from her salary from the Senate.
Man.
And so she knows how us regular Americans know how to live. $2 million. This doesn't it's not much these days.
And I guess after all that money, you just go, yeah, I'll be president.
And so, what's interesting is that, looking at her record, she truly has, actually, let me back this one up. So one of the reasons why I think her character is relevant is because I think right now she's getting a huge pass, from the media, from the American public about her record. because she is, African American. They automatically, people automatically assume, oh, she's very like pro, African American issues like criminal justice reform, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at her record, that's not true.
Well, I mean, she was in place during the 1994 crime bill.
No, very true. And so, I think there's a couple instances.
And during that time, tough on crime was the thing.
No, true. So it was politically expedient for her to kind of take the position that she's going to take. And so, as we're about to go through a record, I think an important thing, if you're considering supporting Kamala Harris, to really see how credible she is going to be in championing your issue, because, let's just kind of get through it. So, one is that, she did not support legalizing marijuana, although she claimed, although she claims to support it now. So, how credible is that? She did not support 2 state ballot positions to end the death penalty. So, and now, she's giving lip service that she's against it. She did not join the fight against solitary confinement. She did not support a ballot initiative reforming California's 3 strikes law, which incarcerated people for life for petty crimes. And so, any claim that she makes about criminal justice reform, you have to take with a grain of salt. Her record does not at all back this up. And you can tell that the reason why it doesn't back it up, I don't know what her personal convictions are, but obviously she doesn't listen to them. She listens to her more political considerations, as you can see by her record.
Because I think Hillary Clinton used to win on the whole, what's the good thing about Hillary Clinton? She listens. She listens. She listens. She listens to you.
Not if you're in Wisconsin.
Or Pennsylvania or Michigan.
There you go.
But basically, it's kind of saying, hey, she listens to what everybody's saying. Then she goes, all right, this is what I support.
Reed blown by the wind.
Exactly. And it's like, yeah, do you want to stick with somebody like that? Or do you want somebody who's convicted throughout their life, throughout their career? And I think that says more than just figuring out what's politically expedient.
No, very true. And so, I want to kind of dig into, a couple cases that really put this to light.
Okay.
The first is, in some instances, her office argued against the release of prisoners who have been proven innocent. And so, one case.
No, you know what? She's right. She's tough on crime. She's locking up motherfuckers who didn't do any crime.
Yeah. She's so against crime. She will even lock up the innocent
people.
Because there's this really tragic case. So this guy, he 2 police officers were responding to a report of like a bar fight, and then they saw this guy. Apparently, these police officers testified, seeing this guy take a shiny metal object out of his waistband and throw it under the car. And then they searched the area and they found a double-edged knife 6 inches long. And so this guy's attorney during the original trial didn't call any witnesses on his behalf, even though he maintained his innocence. And because he had 2 prior convictions for a burglary, he qualified for a lengthy prison term under the 3 strikes law. So he was sentenced to 28 years to life for this. And so, he maintained his innocence. The Innocence Project actually took on his case. And then when a U.S. District Court magistrate heard the testimony that jurors weren't able to, a testimony from 3 witnesses saying they saw a different man, not Larson, with the knife. One of those witnesses was a former correctional officer visiting from Tennessee who was formerly served as a police chief in North Carolina. So a very credible witness said, no, it was this other guy, not him. And so as a result, he was declared innocent and he was ordered release. But did Kamala Harris's office release him? No, because, they argued that, he filed his paperwork a little late, so we're just going to keep him in there. And so that is monstrous. That is absolutely monstrous. And you know why? What motivated, according to a Stanford professor of law, he claims that what motivated her and her office not to release this innocent man is that they were trying to prevent an onslaught of legal claims by prisoners who have what they think of as tenuous arguments. And so because they just didn't want to deal with that caseload, they were willing to keep an innocent man in jail. And so I think that's evidence of her putting, her own political ambitions, her own selfish considerations above that of even justice. An innocent man could have potentially spent 28 years to life in jail for a crime he didn't commit because of Kamala Harris. And I think that is detestable. that she would miscarriage justice to that degree.
Just because you don't want to open up all the other cases to question.
Exactly. One of the reasons why she actually doesn't have a lot of support within the African American community is because, of her role as a DA. They view her as kind of co-opted by the man. And I think perhaps, this, kind of projection, this kind of stereotype, perhaps is a little true, because she's demonstrated it, through her record. There's also this issue of truancy. Are you familiar at all about her?
I think you touched on it last time, but go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things she's really known for is championing in the California state legislature a truancy law that made it a criminal misdemeanor for parents to allow kids in kindergarten through 8th grade to miss more than 10% of school days without a valid excuse. And so, Harris's reasoning behind her support for this is that she learned that a disproportionate number of the city's homicide victims were high school dropouts, and that dropouts are more likely to become perpetrators or victims of crimes. And so preventing truancy, she argued, was not just about the noble goal of ensuring every child's education, but a matter of averting future criminals. And so this is an example of why people think that Kamala Harris is quote-unquote thoughtful, because she can recognize this relationship between, for example, truancy and, rates of like homicide and crime. But this is now, though, where I argue that she is not thoughtful enough, because although that relationship is true, her trying to use the criminal justice system to address it is very thoughtless. I think she should have thought a little more about this, because when you actually see it played out, this ends up just exacerbating the problem. Because it's not that these parents, whose kids are missing a lot of school, it's not that they're really irresponsible or really negligent, but the truth of it is that, they're generally poor. They're generally single parents. There's one case in particular of a woman who was arrested in Buena Park because her child missed, too many school days. And it was because her child had sickle cell anemia. And so the child, had to go seek treatment often, didn't feel well enough to go to school. And, because they were using the criminal justice system to try to enforce it, the school administrators, they took a very kind of hostile position toward her. They're very skeptical. It's like, oh, can we see a doctor's note why she's missing? Versus saying like, oh, wait a minute, taking a compassionate tone. Oh, your daughter's not feeling well. I wonder if there's resources we can try to connect to you. And she even complained that, she asked for resources and they were denied. And so this is where, the danger of using the criminal justice system to enforce these kind of policies is when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so even, the school administrators, they're thinking, okay, this is a crime now, so we got to treat these people like criminals. And so we have to use like force against them. And so what's very tragic, though, is this mother of this child, she's not only a single mom, she had her mother experience a stroke, so she had to take care of her mother. She had to take care of this sick child. And so, rather than try to help her, they're trying to throw her in jail. And so it's something like, that I don't think that is a thoughtful policy proposal at all.
Question. Did the mom turn in the tardy slip on time? Or was it not submitted on a timely manner?
Perhaps that's what it was. Maybe
she should just bring her kid on a timely manner.
Yeah,
right?
maybe Kamala is just very punctual. Maybe if you care about punctuality,
she's your president.
Yeah, Kamala Harris 2020.
If you care about things getting turned in on time,
boom.
Ooh, this is not be good because I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
Oh, there's gonna be a lot of people in jail. You pay your taxes late 3 times. Yeah, you're going in the slammer.
Be careful, Jack. Be careful. But one area where she isn't tough on crime, against the police shootings. There was actually a very famous case of Mario Woods, who was shot over 26 times by 5 police officers back in 2015. There actually is even a video on YouTube that you can watch of this shooting.
26 times. This guy must be doing some dirt.
The man was holding a knife, And the police are saying, oh, he was charging at us. It was a threat to our safety.
So he was charging at them with a knife.
Actually, no. You look at the video, the man, arms on by his side, walking away from the police, and they shot him in the back.
So he charged at him backwards?
Yeah, maybe he was doing the moonwalk,
Damn, the boy's got moves.
Yeah, he's got moves, maybe he's a knife thrower, so I mean, it was obviously a case that the police were wrong, you know. I mean, maybe there's cases, I'm sure there's cases where, that kind of force perhaps is justified, but I don't know, 26 times, and the man doesn't have a gun. The man is holding
26 times. That means if you just have your own handgun, you have to reload. And then if you have 3 other handguns, that's like a whole clip per person.
Oh no! So 26 between the 5 officers.
The 5 officers.
That's about like five shots each. But when you watch the video, it's just a pop, 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 pop. It is.
No, it's split second.
It is, but I mean, the thing is, the man was walking away. He wasn't rushing toward anyone. The man, he was holding a knife that is not a projectile weapon. At no point are these officers actually in any danger, when they shot him. Even the guy recording was like, hey, that's not unnecessary, like, well, you didn't have to shoot him. And even the San Francisco Police Department settled with the guy's mom for like $400,000. And so it's something where, once again, Kamala Harris, being African American, she gets a pass on this. If that was a white DA, there's no way with that kind of record, that person can claim to support, Black Lives Matter or African American issues when dealing with the criminal justice reform. But she gets a pass.
She has something against people holding knives. The first guy was a knife wielding guy who was in jail for 28 years alive. She does not like knives, boys.
If you're against knives, she's your candidate. So
if you want everything to be punctual and you hate knives if your life depends on it, this is the woman for you.
Kamala 2020. And so, it's one thing to say that, perhaps she has changed her ways, but this is all very recent history. I mean, this police shooting that I'm referring to is back in 2015.
What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. That is not ancient history.
Whoa.
So, I don't think it's credible to say she had this miraculous change of heart and she's going to be this completely different person, now. And so that's why I just find her record deeply, deeply problematic. And what I'm surprised by, though, is that the media is just largely giving her a pass. So,
you are right. I think the left-leaning media, I don't know about the right, but the left-leaning media is giving her a lot of softball questions.
Oh yeah, and I do think it goes back to this like, we just got to beat Trump mentality, where we're willing to sacrifice the truth. And so it's something where I think it's very myopic and short-sighted, because by the time the general election comes up, these are huge liabilities.
So what do you think? Do you think beating Trump, how important is that of a factor for you?
Because this whole just anti-Trump sentiment, then by that logic, Hillary Clinton should have won. And so, why didn't she win? There's a number of reasons, but one of it is what exactly was she running on? And you can say that about Joe Biden. What exactly is he running on? You can even say it about Kamala Harris. What exactly is she running on? And so actually, I think maybe that's a good opportunity now to kind of look at her policy positions to see what exactly her platform is. I mean, we spoke a little bit about the perception of her being for criminal justice reform, but I think it's important to see what her signature policy proposals are. And so, I know her main policy proposal is the LIFT Act. So, Jack, do you want to explain to our listeners what the LIFT Act is?
Oh, so the LIFT Act is designed to lift the middle class. And the LIFT, L-I-F-T, not L-Y-F-T, is not an act for
we're not gonna
Lyft drivers.
We're not going to get free rideshare?
No, not this time. Not this time. But those rideshare drivers will probably get a bigger tax credit because of this LIFT Act.
Okay, so good for Lyft drivers.
So LIFT is called Livable Income for Families Today.
Boom.
All right. We always have to come up with very smart names so that it could become an acronym for something that sounds positive and uplifting.
Hey, there you go.
So if you tuned in, if you listened to our podcast the other time, we talked about the earned income tax credit. So the earned income tax credit, basically it's saying, hey, if you earn under a certain amount and you have this many qualifying kids, then that means you qualify for this amount of taxable refund, and you get that in a form of a check, or it goes against the income taxes that you owe. So if you're a single man, 15,570, you get $529. And then you can have up to 3 kids and earn up to $50,000, from 15 to 5050, and get $6,557 of tax credit. So from no kids to 3 kids, that's $6,000 that you get extra. So Kamala wants to lift that up and say, hey, we're going to increase that. We're gonna give that to you if you qualify, but if you don't, if you make under $50,000, we'll give you $3,000 a year. And you can collect that on a monthly basis if you want.
And then that breaks down to
$250 per month. Universal basic income, baby.
Well,
right?
I don't know if that's basic income.
Wait, that's not basic income enough?
Yeah, and I don't think that's universal either.
Oh, what? It's not? Oh, wait. Well, it's true. It's only for middle income families.
Because if you earn if you don't earn any money, then you're not getting it. And if you earn more than $50,000 a year, you're not getting it.
That is correct. So the cap for a single person is $50,000. Cap for a couple is $100,000. So no marriage penalty. And then it goes from $3,000 per year to $6,000 per year. So if you break it down to a month, $250 a month to $500 a month. So I mean, yeah, hey, you know what? That still helps people, right? If you're in that category. And then so the Center of Budget and Policy Priority says that it would lift 9 million people out of poverty. So because it's designed only, it's more for it helps our progressive tax even more, because it actually filters some of the tax refunds down to anybody below $100,000 if you're a couple, or $50,000 if you're single. So you, Terrence, if you make under $50,000, you can get $250 a year, a month. But if you make over that, then nothing.
I see. So I'm gonna get nothing.
You're gonna get nothing. And then so yeah, because you're making like $500,000 a year, right? In this America,
only if we pick up maybe 2 million subscribers.
And then so yeah. Now what you're saying is, if you go to the other extreme, so you can't qualify unless you earn money. So meaning, if you earn $0, you get $0. But if you earn $1, you get $1.
Okay.
And it's dollar for dollar until you get to 3,000. So if you've earned $3,000 from any source that's paid income as earned income, then you get $3,000 of tax credit.
Okay, so you mentioned like 9 million people this is lifting out of poverty. So does that mean that only 9 million people are going to benefit from this Lift Act?
Actually, 80 million people would qualify for this.
80?
80. So it is, she touts it as the largest middle class tax cut ever, which in some metrics is true. Other metrics, no. But in general, most policy experts agree that this has a larger wealth impact on the middle class.
I see. But I feel like that's a very misleading statistic, just because I think, how the distinction of what middle class is, I feel like that is a little gray. I mean,
depends on where you live, right?
Exactly.
I think I saw the just to be considered middle class, you have to earn $125,000.
In what, New York City?
In San Francisco. No, New York, I hear, is like 200.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, but I take it that this Lift Act is not going to be variable across where you're living.
That is correct. It's not variable where you live. It's just based on your tax, your taxable income, your gross income, and that's how they determine whether you qualify for this $3,000 or $6,000.
Kamala ever explain where she came up with these figures? Like why $3,000 a year?
She never did. Everything I could find doesn't point to. This act has been very under the radar, mainly because I think that it doesn't really do too much, and it's nothing. As you can see, you got to get really into the details of the numbers in order to figure out, oh, how is this going to work? But not a lot of people are talking about this. Not a lot of articles. Not a lot of people going into the minutia of this bill or this act.
Because I went to her website and I agree. No explanation of where she came with that $50,000 threshold, where she came up with $3,000 a year. Because personally, I mean, just my own, judgment. $250 a month, not gonna do a lot. That's maybe a car payment. So I mean, obviously, hey, if you want to give me $250, I guess I'll take it. But I don't see, is that necessarily the wisest use?
And also, isn't that just going, oh man, like then maybe I shouldn't make that extra $2,000 above $50K.
No, you're right. It sets up a very negative incentive where you want to cap your income at 50,000. Which I think is counterproductive. I think that may end up either keeping more money off the books, so lowering tax revenue, or people limiting the size of our economy by people not willing to work more.
Lowering tax revenue is correct. It's going to lower our tax revenue by $2.8 trillion over the next 10 years because it would there's going to be a couple effects, but primary the effect is going to be there's going to be taking more money and giving it to other people. And then the other effect is going to be there's going to be people in that threshold where they don't qualify and they're just going to opt to not work to qualify for this.
So you're saying like people who earn more than $50,000 a year, like you and I, will be paying for this?
Oh, for sure. So that's also the part where it doesn't go into detail. So everything we're going to talk about with Kamala Harris, I have no idea where the money is going to come from. They don't want to talk about it, or they choose not to talk about it, or it's just such common knowledge that they took it for granted and they never explained it to me. But basically they're just saying what I think is happening is Kamala Harris is she wants to do is to get rid of all the Trump tax cut, because I believe the Trump tax cuts actually would offset about $3 trillion, and this is where she was going to get that $2.8 trillion from.
Got it. Yeah, so I mean, I feel like a lot of her policies really seem to be focusing on, I guess I would call maybe because we live in Los Angeles, I would call the lower middle class. I don't know if you've read much about the Rent Relief Act.
Yes.
So for our listeners, what is the Rent Relief Act?
Is to relieve you of your rent, because the rent is too damn high.
No, that's fair.
The rent is too damn high. Now, first of all, we need to preface this. Like, a lot of people think rent is just a unidimensional issue.
What do you mean?
Which is landlord bad, renters good.
Aren't you a landlord, Jack?
I am a landlord.
Ooh, so you're bad.
Oh, man, I hate that. Actually, you know what? Because I'm a landlord, I would love the Rent Relief Act.
Oh, how so?
I would love that act. All right, so first of all, let's go through the numbers.
Got it.
I like to bring this to you because you live in a very diverse neighborhood. So in your area in Los Angeles, is it 90? Okay, I don't want to say your zip code actually on here. But yeah, so you live in Beverly Hills, right?
Hey, no, whoa. Beverly Hills adjacent.
So no, he live in West LA, and in February of 2011, I looked this up on rentjungle.com. A one-bedroom apartment in your area runs about $1,358 per month, and that was back in 2011.
That sounds about right.
Okay. In February of 2019, so exactly 8 years later, so that first one was February 2011. February 2019, 8 years later, same one bedroom apartment, $2,456. So that is a increase of 7.71% per year. During that time, inflation per year was less than 2%.
I see.
So that means these rent increases was just getting too ridiculous. Real wages weren't growing at all. Nominal wages was growing at around 2%, and then after the tax cut, a little bit more. But basically, that's the problem we have. So a lot of candidates has been asked about this whole rent issue. So of course, a lot of people, the first thing they do is rent control. That's what we want to do. We rent control because the prices are going too high. So we want to control the prices. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. So I have to give Kamala Harris props for this because she didn't just reach for the easiest tool. She actually went and looked at the problem and tried to solve it. So basically, she's saying if you spend 30% of your gross income, including utilities, if that is your rent is over, including utilities, is over 30% of your gross income, you are eligible for a refundable tax credit. And that tax credit would come at a share of difference. So the difference, let's say you earn a 50,000. Let's just say in a situation, 50,000. 15,000 is 30%. So that means if your rent, including your utilities, go over 15,000, any of the amounts above that, the federal government would help you pay.
I see.
Now, there's a limit. If your income is below $25,000, they will help you pay 100% of that difference.
Okay, up to...
good question. So up to what, right? Because what if I'm just earning $25,000 and I go to I live in like fucking Brentwood or something like that.
Yeah, live in a
right?
penthouse, yeah.
So then it's capped at the 100% of, I found this out, small area fair market rent.
I see.
So the small area fair market rent in that area is about $1,750. So that means the difference between 15,000 and $1,750, or which comes out to $21,000 per year, is $6,000. So of that $6,000, if you're making under $25,000, they will compensate you for, or they will give you a refund for $6,000. So in this situation, if you're earning under $25,000, you can possibly get a $6,000 tax credit or rent relief act, which is just a taxable refund, and also a $3,000 lift act, and then you get your EITC and then your child tax credits. It's just building on top of each other.
Yeah, so I mean, Kamala Harris really seems like the candidate for the lower middle class then.
Well, yeah, that's what it seems like. So when you and also if you live in a pricier city, and also in order to qualify, your gross income has to be below $100,000. So for pricier cities, she raises that up to $125,000.
Wait, is that for a single individual or a household with
two married people?
Okay, so that's actually a very misleading number then. That's more so 50,000 to 60,000
per person. Well, yeah, but I guess with rent relief, they can only look at a household at a time.
Well, that's fair, but right. Just to clarify to our listeners who think, "Oh, I earn less than 100,000," but it's
oh, that's right. So I don't remember seeing what it would be for like a single person in a sense.
Yeah, because even on like a hot an expensive area like New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, like $60,000 a year, it's not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. So basically, what she's trying to do is trying to say, hey, instead of us going in and saying, hey, landlords, you need to clean your shit up and you need to be fair with your price adjustments. She's going on the demand side and saying, hey, if you can't afford these, here's some money to afford your rent.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there are some flaws with this model. I think an example is that Just like with college tuition, the moment the federal government started subsidizing colleges with the Pell Grant, tuition skyrocketed up. And so the landlords, they know, hey, with this money coming in, we're just going to raise the rents, to these thresholds.
That's exactly now. And that's it's not that I don't think landlords just go in and go, all right, we're gonna raise the rent. But yeah, definitely going forward, like, oh yeah, hey, this is a rent relief act, so you're definitely getting help with rent. So all right, so and if not the fact that these landlords aren't, let's just say these landlords aren't, meeting secretly and trying to price gouge everything, but it has an effect on the behavior side, because now if you have a rent relief and the landlord raises the rent, you're going to be a little bit more okay with it. And thus the landlord goes, okay, since you're okay with it, next year I'm going to raise the rent a little bit more, and you're still okay with it. So it's an equilibrium. It's the law of supply and demand. You raise supply, you lower prices. You raise demand, you increase prices. It's just that simple. And basically what this side is doing is we're just increasing the demand because we're letting people stay in the homes where they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford based on their current economic status.
And I think that has a terrible ripple effect because, say, you're helping out these lower middle class people so they can afford to maybe live in like middle class or upper middle class, kind of apartments. Then the people who are normally middle class or upper middle class, there's a restriction on supply in the apartments they would have normally rented. So they got to go up into these luxury apartments. And so, it makes it more expensive for everyone going up. And so that's where, I think the Rent Relief Act is a terrible idea. I'm in a much more favor of, say, Elizabeth Warren's plan that addresses more so the supply side by helping to relax neighborhood zoning, just to have more supply out in the market.
And you are right. I think this is also I like the spirit of her policies, who she's trying to target, who she's trying to help.
Yeah, I mean, so this is an example of like, once again, the common refrain we've been saying about Kamala Harris. One is that she cares way more about optics than she does about reality. And then two, it's the idea that she's thoughtful, but not thoughtful enough. I mean, I do appreciate her focusing on this issue. I think, yes, rents are going up, but her solution, she needs to give it a little more thought. I think someone like Elizabeth Warren, in contrast, has given it more thought and has what I believe and many experts believe is a much better policy proposal by addressing supply side. The whole reason why real estate's expensive in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York is artificial restriction of supply. Because these single family homeowners, they don't want to have like larger multi-unit buildings built in their neighborhood, so they artificially keep the zoning in such a way to prevent it, and so that hurts all of us. And I think it's something where Elizabeth Warren's plan is a lot more thoughtful and saying like, hey, the interests of these small select few who own these single family homes need to be overridden for the benefit of the rest of us.
So final thoughts. One, I like from an economics perspective what she's trying to do with those two policies. As you said, like you're saying, just not enough thought, but at least to me, it's a step in the right direction. Not too sure about her whole criminal justice record at all, especially after today's conversation. But just the spirit of her candidacy seems problematic to me.
Oh, what do you mean?
There is a very you versus me versus them kind of with Kamala Harris. It seems like, yeah, if you're supporting, it's about winning your side. It's not about solving the problems. That's not what she's trying to run on. She's not trying to solve those problems. She's just trying to point out those problems, saying, hey, I'm the guy who pointed out all those problems, and then vote for me with these half-assed policy proposals. So it's fighting, and also it kind of goes into along with her policy, because her policies are geared, one, racially and social economically. And I feel like if you base it that way, it's going to be too easy for the right to attack it.
True, because it only benefits a very limited amount of Americans.
That's correct. And even though it benefits those limited amount of Americans, there are still Americans out there who think that, hey, yeah, there's no free lunch. You got to keep working. And they're going to, and even though, and I've met a few who are not making that much money, but they truly believe in that. Like, hey, don't come in, JFK, ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. That's what their kind of thinking is.
The strict dad philosophy.
No, it is. But so it's not really, I can see somebody who has that kind of thinking, but comes from a very low social economic status and opposing this.
Well, thank you for listening to another episode of Taj Tell. If you like what you heard, go ahead and just smash that subscribe button.
Or give us a like, a thumbs up, anything to help, and make sure you turn on the notifications.
5-star rating on Apple Podcasts.
I don't know what the ratings are. A lot of or Google.